Behind the flawless beauty of Sophia Loren lies a truth the world rarely dares to confront. How could a woman adored by millions carry wounds so deep they shaped every breath of her life? Why did her rise to global fame come hand in hand with unbearable losses, private heartbreaks, and silent tragedies the cameras never captured? And why did the very industry that crowned her a goddess also push her to the brink, forcing her to fight battles no one ever saw? The miscarriages that shattered her spirit, the invasive press that twisted her pain into headlines, the colleagues who crossed every boundary, and the relentless weight of expectation. How much can a single woman endure? Beneath the diamonds, the applause, and the myth, Loren was still a daughter abandoned, a wife hunted by the law, and a mother who longed for a child more than she ever longed for fame. Her story is not just about beauty. It is about survival. Stay with us, because only by walking through every hidden corner of her life can we understand why the world will never see another Sophia Loren. Sophia Loren, the ultimate symbol of Mediterranean beauty, the woman who made even Hollywood bow down, didn't live a life wrapped in silk and spotlight. Behind that smile that melted millions of hearts was a childhood filled with tears, wounds that never fully healed, and a love story that stunned the entire world. Standing beside Cary Grant, Hollywood's most charming gentleman, Loren thought she had found her destiny. But fate arrived at the wrong time. Grant was already married, and Loren was torn between passion and morality. One day, Grant did something so shocking that Loren fled to Greece, hoping to find peace, only to face the deepest pain of her life. Her romantic life revolved around two men who loved her with maddening intensity. Both wanted to spend their lives with her, but between them stood countless obstacles, from secret marriages to the threat of prison. In the end, only one man would win the heart of the Italian beauty. The other would walk away with a shattered soul. I buy house. Sophia Loren was born in 1,934 inches, the small town of Pozzuoli, southern Italy. From the very first moment, her life had no room for sweetness. Her father, Riccardo Ciccolone, a man of status, abandoned her mother and her before Sophia even understood what a family was. He left nothing behind except his surname, Ciccolone, a name Loren carried throughout her life like a scar that never healed. Later, she met her father only 3 times, and when she had become a world-renowned star, she no longer wished to look back on that past. Sophia's childhood was marked by hunger and hardship during the war years. She was a skinny, awkward girl, mocked by classmates who called her toothpick. No one could have imagined that within that fragile frame lay a beauty that would one day make the whole world bow down. Yet, like a miracle, everything changed in the summer when she turned 15. That day, Loren followed some friends to Rome, hoping only to find a small job. But amid the noise of the Miss Italia pageant, a strange man approached her and handed her a small note. It was from Carlo Ponti, a judge of the contest and a famous film producer. He had seen Loren in the crowd, and something in her beauty left him stunned. Ponti told her she must compete. For another girl, the attention of an older, unfamiliar man might have been frightening, but for Sophia, it felt like a signal from destiny. Throughout her childhood, her mother had always told her, "You were born to be a star." And now she believed that prophecy was about to come true. The 1,950 pageant turned a 15-year-old girl into a national sensation. Sophia Ciccolone won the title of Miss Elegance, the runner-up position in her very first public appearance. It was a perfect beginning to a legendary journey. Carlo Ponti quickly recognized the cinematic potential hidden in the young girl. He wasn't just a judge. He was the man who opened the first door, leading Loren into the world of film. It was Ponti who suggested she change her name from Ciccolone to Sophia Loren, a name that rang like a silver bell, simple, distinctly Italian, and destined to become iconic. But alongside the rise of her career, a complicated relationship began to form between them. Ponti was 22 years older than Loren. At first they were friends, then confidants, and eventually lovers. When Loren was only 19, all boundaries dissolved. She loved him with the full trust of someone who had longed her entire life for a family. Ponti became both the shadow of the father who had abandoned her and the man she could never fully have. because Carlo Ponti was already married with 2 children. In 1952 Italy, divorce was forbidden. Their love, both romantic and forbidden, became the subject of relentless public scrutiny. Loren once said, "I only wanted a home, something I never had." But the law didn't allow it. So she turned her gaze westward to Hollywood, the land of opportunity and light. Sophia Loren began acting in Italian films at just 16. Only a few years later, the world took notice. The tall, dark-haired young woman with mesmerizing beauty drove Hollywood's power players mad. Everyone wanted her, and Paramount won. The studio signed her to a 5-picture deal, launching her journey toward the dazzling heights of the movie capital. For a young girl from Italy, Hollywood could have been intimidating, but the City of Lights embraced her warmly. The 5-picture contract with Paramount put Loren's name firmly on the international film map. Within just a few years, Sophia Loren became a household name. Yet for Loren, fame was never enough. She longed to become the greatest star on earth. Sophia Loren never waited for the world to hand her glory. She went after it step by step, roll by roll, sweat by sweat. Between 1950 and 1955, she appeared in over 35 films, a number that would break almost anyone. At first, Loren lost herself in the whirlwind, feeling as though she was born for the camera, the lights, and the applause. But fame always comes with a price. One night in a quiet room, she suddenly couldn't breathe. Her chest felt crushed. She thought she was dying. The doctor needed only a few minutes to find the cause. Not illness, but panic. She was being consumed by the very thing she had chased all her life: the pressure of fame. From that moment on, Sophia Loren understood that if she didn't save herself, no one could. She slowed down, turned down projects, and chose fewer but deeper roles. The fame remained, but Loren had learned how to live slowly, how to breathe amid the storm. When she moved to America with Carlo Ponti, Sophia thought she had finally found what she'd always been missing: a real family. Ponti divorced his former wife in Mexico, and the two held a legal wedding ceremony. But soon after, the Italian government declared their marriage invalid, branding them both as fugitives. If they returned home, they would be arrested. A cruel joke of the law forced Loren to live for years in fear and pretense. A wife who couldn't be recognized. An Italian citizen forbidden to return to her own country. Amid that turmoil, Hollywood welcomed her with open arms, and fate arranged for her to meet 2 men who would change the course of her life. At a lavish party, Loren met Frank Sinatra and Cary Grant. Sinatra was the warmth of red wine, Grant the chill of steel. She didn't like Grant at first. Arrogant, distant, cold. But destiny brought them together again. And under the dim lights, with slow words and lingering glances, something began to spark between them. Something that went beyond the screen. Still, Sophia Loren remained a woman of reason. When her fame reached its peak, especially after the fall of the Roman Empire, 1964, for which she earned a $1 million salary, a record at the time, she didn't forget what had once brought her to collapse. Loren chose to keep her distance from Hollywood's glitter, to stay away from vanity, and to return to what was most essential: family, and the longing to be a mother. But fate wasn't done testing her. Loren became pregnant several times, but each ended in miscarriage. And before she could recover from those heartbreaks, things grew even worse. The press caught the scent of the tragedy. The media began to speculate and fabricate stories about her failed pregnancies. She had to endure constant invasions of privacy, adding to a pain she was already carrying. And like many actresses of her era, Loren also had to face co-stars who were unbearable, sometimes cruelly so. In the early 1962s, Sophia Loren was invited to collaborate with one of Hollywood's most legendary icons, Clark Gable. For Loren, it was an immense honor. She had always seen Gable as a living legend, the man who made the entire world fall in love through Gone with the Wind. But within just a few days on set, that image came crashing down. The first day of filming went smoothly until the clock struck 5 p.m. Without hesitation, Gable smiled, put on his jacket, and said, "Bye-bye, folks," before walking off set, leaving the entire crew mid-scene. Loren stood frozen in confusion. At first, she thought he might have had an emergency, but no. It was simply Gable's routine. He worked by the clock, never a minute longer, no matter what. For Loren, who often worked without sleep or food to reach perfection, that felt like an insult to the craft of acting. However, Clark Gable wasn't the greatest challenge of her career. The person who truly shattered Loren's faith in her Hollywood colleagues was Marlon Brando, the man the world hailed as a genius. From their very first encounter at the Paramount studio, things went wrong. Brando barged straight into Loren's dressing room, looked around for a moment, and coldly remarked, "You have psychological problems. You should see a doctor." Loren froze. She wasn't used to such rudeness, but she stayed silent. Later, as they prepared to shoot their first scene, Brando unexpectedly ran his hand lightly down her back. Loren turned to him and warned, "Don't do that. I don't like it." Brando smirked. When the cameras rolled, he did it again. Loren immediately stopped acting, glared at him, and said sharply, "If you touch me again, I'll slap you in front of everyone." From that moment on, they were no longer co-stars. They were adversaries. Brando began mocking Loren behind her back, telling people she has breath like a dinosaur simply because she'd eaten an Italian dish with garlic. The rumor spread through the studio, making the atmosphere unbearable. And then came the film's big moment, the kiss scene. After their first take, Loren froze, her face pale. Brando had whispered something in her ear that left her humiliated. She stepped out of frame and shouted, "Do you know what he just said to me? He told me I have a long hair growing out of my nose." The set fell silent. The scene was ruined. The director ordered another take, then another. On the final take, Brando bit Loren's lips so hard she started bleeding. The film ended in an atmosphere as cold as their relationship. Loren swore she would never work with Brando again. Later, she said, "He was talented, but he lacked respect. And to me, that's something unforgivable." It's no surprise the two never collaborated again. But unbelievably, Marlon Brando wasn't the worst co-star Loren ever had. That dubious title belonged to Peter Sellers. When Sophia Loren signed on to star in The Millionaires, the studio reached out to the famous British comedian. At first, Sellers wasn't interested until he learned that Loren would be in the film. Then, he quite literally jumped for joy. Behind the scenes of the film, Sophia Loren and Peter Sellers maintained an appearance of professionalism. But beneath that polished surface simmered a dangerous undercurrent. Loren, with her grace and calm self-control, believed their relationship was purely professional. Sellers, however, saw it differently. His admiration for her slowly twisted into obsession. One evening during a dinner with his wife and friends, Sellers suddenly declared his passionate love for Loren right in front of his wife. The table fell silent. Loren could only force a polite smile, trying to salvage a shred of decorum in what felt like an emotional explosion made public. But Sellers didn't stop there. He sank deeper into his obsession. One night he even woke his young son in the middle of the night to ask, "Do you think I should divorce your mother and marry Sophia?" That single question left the boy emotionally scarred for life. Meanwhile, Loren maintained that nothing beyond friendship had ever happened between them, though rumors never ceased to swirl. Sellers' friends, like comedian Spike Milligan, claimed the two had crossed the line, while Sellers' wife admitted she never knew what was true anymore. Things with Cary Grant, however, were far more complicated. Sophia Loren first met Grant at a Hollywood party hosted by Frank Sinatra, and the first impression was just as disappointing as her encounter with Marlon Brando. Grant arrived 2 hours late, and when he finally appeared, he mocked her heritage, saying, "You Italians all have such strange names." Loren had expected to meet the charming, elegant Cary Grant she'd seen on screen, not a rude, tardy man. But, as they say, first impressions aren't everything. Over time, Grant began to stir something deep within Loren, something she didn't want to admit. At the time, Grant was trapped in his third unhappy marriage, while Loren remained devoted to Carlo Ponti, the man entangled in legal troubles that kept their marriage suspended in limbo. Deep down, Loren began to realize that perhaps Ponti could never give her the home she had always dreamed of. In 1957, Sophia Loren and Cary Grant co-starred for the first time in The Pride and the Passion. Two stars from two different worlds met for the first time. Cary Grant, the perfect gentleman of Hollywood, and Sophia Loren, the radiant 22-year-old Italian rose. No one could have imagined that amid the smoke, the lights, and the thunderous shouts on set, a love would quietly begin to bloom, silent yet intense, like an undercurrent waiting to crash ashore. At first, Loren was cautious, while Grant, at 52, was polite and reserved. But the closer they grew, the clearer it became. Some souls only need a single glance to understand each other. Grant, the man who always hid behind a mask of perfection, suddenly became vulnerable before Loren. He confided in her a secret he had never told anyone, that his own father had committed his mother to a mental institution and lied to the family, saying she had died. It was his deepest wound, and he chose to share it with a woman 30 years his junior. Under the soft glow of candlelight, Grant looked into Loren's eyes and whispered, "Will you marry me?" She froze, her voice trembling. "I don't know." Because somewhere far away, another man was waiting for her. Carlo Ponti, the Italian director, who had nurtured and loved her with a steady, gentle devotion. Grant had everything: fame, charm, and words as smooth as honey. But Carlo had something Hollywood never could give Loren: the feeling of belonging. That emotional conflict kept Loren awake through countless sleepless nights. Then one day, as she left the film set for Greece to begin a new project, she received a bouquet of crimson roses and a pale blue note that read, "Forgive me, my dear girl, I was too hasty. Pray, and I will do the same. See you next week. Goodbye, Cary." It wasn't just a farewell. It was the sigh of a love that could never be fulfilled. Meanwhile, back in Hollywood, Grant's wife, Betsy Drake, had just completed the screenplay for Houseboat, hoping to star alongside her husband and mend their marriage. But Grant insisted the studio rewrite the female lead for Sophia Loren. His love was no longer a secret, and when Loren left, the atmosphere on set turned icy. Everyone could feel the void she left behind. Grant still hoped she would return, but Loren already knew. If she chose him, she would lose herself. She had seen how the press had crucified Ingrid Bergman for daring to divorce and remarry. Loren knew the price of a love the public deemed sinful, and she also knew that no matter how magnificent Grant was, he would never be the man to return to Italy with her, to cook in a small kitchen, or to speak in the simple language of home. "Carlo is Italian," Loren said. "He belongs to my world." I knew it was the right choice. After years of waiting, Loren and Carlo Ponti finally legalized their marriage in 1966. They remained together for life. No scandals, no noise, until his passing in 2007. Grant later sent his congratulations when Loren gave birth to her son, and the two maintained a deep friendship until the end of their days. As for Loren, the poor girl from Naples, she became the goddess of European cinema, the first woman to turn her name into a perfume brand and later to portray herself in a film about her own life. When asked if she ever regretted turning down Cary Grant, Loren simply smiled. "I loved him with a love that was beautiful, pure, and right for its time. But not every love needs to end with a wedding." Now, in her twilight years, Sophia Loren still carries that same gaze, deep, proud, and forever mysterious.